Hello, hiring manager. If you are handling the I-9 completion and validation on-site at your location, you and your newly hired employee will follow this procedure through our online paperless system. The newly hired employee will be prompted to complete their new hire forms, including the Section 1 of the I-9 form. They must complete the forms on or before their first date of employment. I will walk you through what the employee will see and complete to help you understand the content and process flow for them. What I have just pulled up is what the employee will see as they fill in the Section 1 of the I-9 form, which is part of their new online forms. So as you can see, we're using an example of Hank Hills. Mr. Hank Hills is a new employee here at AdvanStaff. So as you can see, he filled out his I-9 already, but it's very important that Mr. Hank Hills, if he doesn't have a middle name, other last names, or apartment number, that he does put N/A in those boxes. So for an example, let's go ahead and delete that right there. Let's try to hit this next button. It's not going to let us hit next if there is not an other last name or N/A. Now, if an employee has two last names, they're going to put that in this box here. So if it's like Hills and then another last name, he would put that there, but it's just Hills. Now, it's very important that the employee does include all of this information here. The Las Vegas, where they live, all that information. Now, the date of birth does need to be in this 224 format. Again, if it's not in the 224 format, it will not let you move on. It's going to say it's invalid. So let's go ahead and update that. And it's also very important that we do have an employee's email address or N/A in that box there. And same with the employee's telephone number here. All this information on this first page is about the employee. So the employee is going to hit next once they've completed that. We're going to go over the citizenship next. We're going to use option 1 for this first I-9. I'm going to go over option 3 and 4 after I go over this one here. So then they're going to check this box saying that they signed the form. They're going to hit next. They're going to say that they did not use a translator or preparer. And if they did use one, they're going to select how many. Then it's going to prompt you to complete the I-9 on paper. So if the employees struggle, just try to talk them through it and don't do the I-9 for them, because then you'll have to default to paper. This is where the employee will review their I-9, so they can just look over it one last time before they hit submit and continue. So now that they have hit submit and continue, you as the manager, you're going to go into your manager web portal and you're going to go ahead and refresh here, and you're going to go ahead and click on Mr. Hank Hills. You're going to click on section 2, you're going to grab it, and then you're going to go ahead and open it. So you're responsible as the hiring managers to examine the newly hired employee's identification and validate that the identification provided does resemble and demonstrate that the employee is who they have identified they are. The employee must provide you either one item, a list A document, or they can provide a list B and one list C document. So how you know what they can provide, you're going to go ahead and hit this next page here. Now, it's very important that you don't tell them what to bring. You just say you need to bring a list A and a list A document, or a list B or C. If they bring a list B or C, it's going to be all listed here what you can accept. So with the list A document, like a passport, you would enter all this information in here. It basically gives you the information for the issuing authority and the document title. Now the document number, it's usually a 9-digit code that's on top of it, and you'll just enter that here. Now let's say they bring in a driver's license. If they bring in a driver's license, it's automatically going to bring up the list C document, because if they bring a list B, they need to have a list C. And with list C documents, it's usually a social security card or a birth certificate. Those are the ones you see the most. And now if they do have a replacement social security card or a receipt, you can also accept that. But most of the time you'll just see a driver's license with a social security card, and you'll enter all that information in there. Now the issuing authority for the driver's license or ID card, it's going to be the state that it was issued from. So we live here in Nevada. Mr. Hank Hills has a Nevada ID. You'll go ahead and enter the expiration date here. it's very important that these IDs are not expired. If they're expired, we cannot accept them. And then you would just go ahead and enter in the social security number for the social security card, because that is the document number. The issuing authority is always going to be the Social Security Administration. And social security cards do not expire, so you'd go ahead and hit N/A. And then you would hit next. Any additional information, you really don't need to put that there unless there's something you want to notate. Now here as the manager, you would go ahead and check this box, basically signing the I-9, and then you would enter your job title here. So I am a client success representative, so I'd put CSR for an abbreviation, but whatever your job title is at work, that's what you would enter as the manager. You'd enter in your last name and then your first name. All right, and then you would hit next, but we're not going to hit next right now because I want to show you some other I-9s that you may see. So we're going to go ahead and hit the back button a few times. So let's say something is incorrect on this I-9. You are able to deny it. What you do is you hit deny, and the reason for denying it, I'm just going to put missing information, but whatever applies you can type in here. And then you just hit deny. So now the employee will go into their portal again, and they're going to click on I-9, and it's going to say that, you know, the I-9 was reopened because of an issue, and the issue was missing information. So they will just hit next. All their information is going to be in here. Now they're going to double check it. So let's say an employee comes in and they have a permanent resident card. That means that they are a lawful permanent resident and they need to fill out this information in here. What is a permanent resident card? It's a type of document that an employee may have. So here's an example of a permanent resident card. With these permanent resident cards, you want to make sure that the card is always not expired. So you want to make sure that the card is valid. This one's expired because it's just an example, but you want to make sure that the card is valid. And then you have the USCIS number. This is very important, and it's always listed on the front of the card. Now let's go and fill out this information. This is what the employee is going to fill out. The UCSI number is the 9-digit number that I showed you that's on the front of the card. So we're going to go ahead and just enter an example in here. And then the type of number is always going to be USCIS number. You're going to check that box and then hit next. Same thing here. You just go ahead that they did not use a translator or preparer. Next, submit and continue. Now you as the manager, you're going to go back into your manager portal, and you are going to refresh again, and Mr. Hank Hills is going to pop up here. So since they provided a permanent resident card, that is considered a type A document. So once this loads, I'm going to show you what you need to look for on the I-9 as a manager. So you always want to make sure that all this information is filled out, that they did put a USCIS number, and it is 9 digits long. Then you're going to go ahead and hit next. The document title, it saves everything in here, but we're just going to ignore that. We're going to show you another example. So what you're going to do here is you're going to click permanent resident card. So they can use their permanent resident card as a list A document. Now, as the manager, on the back of the card, it's very important that you look at this number here. This number SRC and then 10 digits after. It's always going to be 3 letters and then 10 digits. It's not always going to be SRC. It may vary. So we're just going to use SRC. And then you're going to put the issuing authority is going to be the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And then you're going to put the date that the card does expire. And if it's like, let's say the card is expired, like it's 2019, that says it's invalid because it's not, it's expired. So again, want to make sure that it is always valid. Now, let's say someone selects permanent resident, the number 3 option on the I-9. Now, they don't have to provide that permanent resident card. They can provide a driver's license ID card, school ID, that kind of information. So it does not have to be that permanent resident card. So let's say they provide a driver's license. What are the options? It is going to be a social security card or a replacement or receipt social security card. The US birth certificate is not going to apply to them because they weren't born here in the US. So then you would just, go through the same process here. We're going to go ahead and just use the permanent resident card. The issuing authority, and you're just going to fill all this stuff out. And this process is pretty much the same as before. You're going to enter all this information in. But now we're going to go ahead and go back, and I want to show you one more I-9 that you may see. We're going to deny this I-9 again. Okay, now since you denied the I-9, the employee is going to have to complete that again. Go to section 1. All right, now let's say an employee chooses option 4, which is basically if they provide a authorization work permit or a work permit, essentially. This is what an employment authorization card looks like here. Again, that UCSI number is going to be on the front, and then the card number is right there on the front also, but we always want to see the back and make sure it is valid. The way you can tell these two cards apart between the permanent resident and the employment authorization card is permanent resident cards are green, employment authorization cards are usually this red and blue color. So what this one is a little bit different. It's going to ask for the date of expiration first. Again, make sure that it is always valid, not expired. And then you're going to go ahead and choose this option, the USCIS number. And then it's going to be that 9-digit number that's on the front of the card. And then the type of number is going to be that USCIS number. And then the employee is going to go ahead and submit the I-9. Now, if an employee brings in an employment authorization card, that is really the only document you can accept because they may have a driver's license and they may have a social, but it's going to have restrictions on it, and we can only accept on this document unrestricted documents, essentially. So again, you're going to go here and you're going to choose the employment authorization card. Every once in a while, you'll see a foreign passport with a stamp on it saying that it is good to go. It's essentially the same thing, but on a passport. But you don't see those too often. So an employment authorization document, you want to look at the back here, and then you're going to take that number, and it is going to be, again, 3 letters and 10 digits. So we're going to go ahead and enter that in here. And then the issuing authority is going to be the same one as before. That is the USCIS. And then the expiration date is going to be the same as the I-9. You want to make sure that all this information matches, because if it doesn't match, it won't let you go through. And then you just submit the I-9. So if you guys ever have any questions about the I-9 or the process, you can always feel free to shoot us an email or give us a call. Thank you, and I hope you guys enjoyed this I-9 training, and it was very helpful for you guys. Thank you. Have a great day.